Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be my October wrap-up. I did a little bit more of the Blackoween-a-thon and I read a couple of romances and several fantasy books. So for Blackoween, I read When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. I actually read most of this by audiobook. I did a little dog sitting, so there was a lot of driving back and forth from there to my house. And I like to listen to audiobooks while I drive, and also I just did some crafts while listening to the audiobook. And this is like gentrification thriller where this woman's neighbors in the neighborhood of Brownstone that she lived in are disappearing and are being replaced by white people at a very rapid pace. And then creepy things start happening in the night, and this was very scary to me. I've heard secondhand from that some people didn't think it was scary. I thought it was very scary. It was especially when I was trying to sleep at night in the house that I was dog sitting at. It felt like the shadows were coming to get me in my dark room. So yeah, this is a double perspective book with a black woman and a white man who are in this neighborhood, and all this stuff is going on around them. I really enjoyed the themes of community and sticking together and surviving, and like, this is done before, let's not let it happen again type stuff, which actually that like recurring bad people keep using the same tactics to try to do horrible things over and over generationally is actually in one of the other books that I read this month, so we'll talk about that a little more later. But yeah, knowing your history is being valuable is the theme of this book as well. And yeah, I really loved the community aspects of it, and I was very invested in like what was going to happen next, and I kept like thinking to myself whenever I had to put it down to do something else, I was like, what's our main character going to do? What can she do? What is the way out of this? So that was really cool. Then I read Rust in the Root by Justina Ireland, and I've been very much in a reading slump this whole month, and this was one book that I did not have trouble reading at all. Once I got about 100 pages into it, it's like 450 pages, I started just zooming through it, and like one day I read like 300 pages of it because I just didn't want to put it down, and I fortunately had the time that day to devote to reading. This is a fantasy. It's another of Justina Ireland's alternate history sort of books, like Dread Nation, where it's set in the US, but if the US had a slightly different history because of magic. And in this case, there's this stuff called the Possibilities, and there are magical people who use the possibilities and manipulate them to do magic, and there are also people who use a lot less of that magic to power mechomancy. It's basically mixing magic with technology. The world mainly considers mechomancy to be superior to not mixing the magic, just having the magic by itself, and something called the Great Rust happened that made mechomancy stop working a bunch of places, and they blamed regular magic for that. But they are using non-mechomancers to go in and try to fix the places that are rusted. There's a lot in here about how the way the government is addressing this doesn't make sense, and like I feel like that's shown very well at the beginning of the book. And so how this our main character's magic works is you have like seeds, like a walnut seed or sesame seeds, and you can turn that into something with the possibilities. Seeds have a lot of possibility because they're like baby things. So you can turn some seeds into a sandwich, or you can turn a bigger seed into like a little magical construct that will like fight for you. And so our main character there aren't many jobs for regular magic people except to go into the government to fix these rusted places. So she eventually decides to become one of them, and start helping to fix these places. And she finds a mentor who's really cool. And but once they go to one of the rusted places to try to fix things, they figure out everything is not what they've been told, and things are way more dangerous than they've been told, and they need to figure out what's actually causing the rust, and like what's actually causing the monsters that live in the rust, and who among their companions that they work with is actually on their side. And I really love that. There's a lot of this also has a value of community to it and the value of mentors, and there's quite a few queer characters. Our main character is queer. There is very much the theme of the racists have tried to oppress and or get rid of Black people in the past in these ways, and they're trying to do it again, and we have to resist them, and we also have to set up our descendants to resist them when they circle back around and try to do it again. And that again relates to how knowing your history is valuable, because if you know these people have been defeated in the past and how that was done, you can defeat them again. And things like that. That was really cool. I really, really love this. I really love Justina Ireland's writing, and I'm looking forward to getting into more of her backlog. Then I read Beasts of Prey, and this one was one that it was hard to get into at the beginning, but there was like lots of interesting aspects, so I like wanted to finish it, but I wasn't totally feeling it until like 200 pages in. This is a 450 page book again, and after that I was like, yes, consuming it, let's go, I want to find out what's happening next, and like everything was like extra interesting from that point on. So this is in another magical world, based on a lot of different mythologies and places within Africa. And I really liked the author's note. It talked about why the author did that instead of using mythology and cultural stuff from a particular country. And it is 3 perspectives, 2 different timelines, or there's 1 perspective that's in the past and 2 perspectives that are in the present. And you get a lot more from the 2 present perspectives. They're just every once in a while dropped in a little chapter from the past perspective. This is by Ayana Gray. One of our main characters is a indentured servant at a zoo. One of them is in training to become a priest warrior, and for different reasons they both need to go after a beast that has been attacking the fringes of their city for quite a while, for 100 years, and so they team up to go after this beast, and the beast lives in this magical forest. And I really liked all the parts within the magical forest. That was the most interesting and had like the most cool like creatures and mythology and stuff. And this had a lot of themes of how you just believe what you've been told when you're a kid, and the bad guys are not always who you think they are. And once again, that knowing your history can very much help you solve problems in the present. I didn't like the 2 main characters at the beginning of the story. I thought, especially the guy was very bratty. And also the past perspective person was also very bratty, but they are teenagers. But I did really like how they all grew through the story, so I ended up really liking them. So yeah, if the characters are annoying at the beginning of this, they do get better, and it's a really cool story. And Rust in the Root is, I don't know if there's planned to be a sequel or anything, but there's room for a sequel or for a series going on to like have the continued adventures of. Whereas this one needs a sequel because it actually left us at a point where the story wasn't finished. So hopefully that will be coming out soonish and I will be able to finish the story. Then I tried reading Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman, and I really didn't like it. I absolutely love the movie. I've watched it multiple times this season. It's for me, the right amount of spooky with a lot of like really wonderful sister love, and just it's a movie full of women and women standing together, and I really love that. And it's also very witchy. So I decided I would read the book because I had heard that it's fairly similar to the movie, but a lot longer and more drawn out. So I thought that would be nice. But when I read it, or I listened to it, every single character was less likable by a large margin in the book than they are in the movie. Like, the aunts are less likable, Sally, the main character, is less likable, her sister Jillian is less likable, her daughters even are less likable. Are several elements that are near the beginning of the movie that sort of tie threads that like go throughout the movie and like make it all cohesive, but those elements weren't in the book. And yeah, so basically my favorite aspects and like all of the characters that I enjoy are not in the book. I read to about 60% and I was like, I'm not enjoying this, I'm just gonna give it up. I think I'm gonna instead reread Garden Spells that I have up here, which is a nice calm witchy book that like is in a small town and has sister love and stuff like that, and all of the characters are really likable. So I think that will give me the vibes that I was looking for. Then I read All About Love, which is a historical romance by one of my mom's favorite historical romance authors. So I decided I would try out this author and see if I liked them. And this book was pretty good. There is murder mystery that we're solving at the same time that the romance is going on. It was a fairly sweet story, and I really enjoyed the murder mystery and like how that was solved. Usually I don't like non-professionals solving mysteries, but in this case I think it was fairly well done, especially because there are no real professional murder solvers at this time in a little country town where it's set. There's just a magistrate and that's it. So the romance was fairly sweet, and I also liked the secondary relationships that our characters had. Then I read All About Passion by the same author, and like the romance was going along. It was fun, it was interesting. There were some very odd circumstances around this arranged marriage, but then it used the mentally ill person is the villain trope, and included a little dash of eugenics with the philosophy that mentally ill people shouldn't reproduce. Yeah, it made me very angry. It's okay for there to be a mentally ill villain as long as they're not the only mentally ill person in the book. There's a difference between showing a bad person who has a mental illness versus their mental illness makes them a bad person, which is what was in this book. Because once again, mentally ill people are far more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators. So yeah, I got put off that author pretty badly after reading the second book. And that's everything I read this month, ending on a real downer because I'm still in a reading slump. So I guess I read 9 books this month. I do have a couple more in progress, and I'm really looking forward to taking part in Native Lady Book Warrior. Has a readathon coming in November called the Skodan Readathon. And it's all about reading Indigenous books, and I have quite a few books lined up for that that I'm excited about. So hopefully next month I will be out of my reading slump. I am feeling a little bit better. The depression's been bad the last like 3 weeks, but I feel a little better right now. That might just be because I'm filming a video and I really like filming videos. And Rust in the Root is a new favorite, so I'm really happy about that. I'd love to know how your month went. Are you doing anything for Halloween? If you've made any special video content for Halloween or Halloween month, and if you'd like to leave an emoji this week, how about a snake for Beasts of Prey? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!